Everyone. This is going to be an interactive workshop where I'm going to ask some people to contribute. So be ready to speak. I'm going to hang on. Let's put that in big screen one jiffy. There we go. Alrighty. So a guide to giving presentations. Really, it's about creating some good PowerPoints. Just to start, before we get into this. I know that presentations and PowerPoints and stuff is basically a common thing that most students do, especially students at your level. Could anyone give me in the chat box, give me an idea of how fantastic you are about your PowerPoint designs, just to give me an idea of where we are with the level of expertise in this workshop? Could anyone so for example, do we have any experts here? Experts who feel that they are number one and really they're just here to fill in some time and they don't really need to listen to this at all. And really you could teach this yourselves. Do we have any of those people here? Okay, well, do we have any people who are not too sure and they're a little bit shaky on the grounds of creating a PowerPoint? Some of them are even thinking, what is a PowerPoint? I'm not going to go into the technicals of let's open a PowerPoint and this is what you might see. However, do we have anyone who would like to respond at this time? Just tell me, are you alive? So this is what we're looking at today. I'm going to give you an overview of a presentation. We're going to look at some topic planning, then content development, which of course is part of building up your presentation, and then PowerPoint design. So just keep that in your mind. 4 things we're covering, just in case you get really bored and you're counting down, when am I going to stop? Only 4 things to cover today. All right, moving on. So this is our overview to give you an idea, the big picture. When you're writing your presentation, obviously the body is the main writing part, where I like to say that to everyone to have at least 3 main points around your topic. People like 3 pieces of information. It makes it easier to comprehend pieces of information. And if you can keep it to 3, it makes it easy for everyone. Make sure that in the body that there's the same message coming through. So obviously, main point number 1 is the most important point that you want to make. So prioritize the level of importance of those key points that you want to make. But as you talk or you present your main points, the same message is filtered through each of those main points. Because when you introduce your presentation and you say, the purpose of your presentation, it has that key message in there, and then throughout the body of your presentation, you're reiterating that key message. And then at the end, when you summarize, you also restate that key message again to make sure that everyone fully understands your viewpoint and those definite key points that are extremely important. So before you start, you need to think about what type of presentation you want to give. And on the left-hand side here, I've got number 1 to number 5. So it's to inform, to educate, to persuade, to solve challenges, and inspire. The reason I have these is because they have a different approach to the audience. When you're just giving information, then you can just stand in front of your PowerPoint and refer to it, and you don't have to put so much effort into everyone understanding. However, when you're educating, you really have to make it more interactive, and you have to be very clear about looking at people's body language and making sure that they're getting the full message, because the ultimate goal at the end of your presentation is that they have actually learnt something. Persuading is another different technique where, we all know that persuasion is to change someone's mind. So it's how you deliver that message, how you emphasize the key points, how you use your intonation to change the strength of certain words or certain phrases that you might use, or certain key points, or what you may display on your PowerPoint. And hey, everyone, look at this, and this is why and you've got your body language that you're using as well, to emphasize your opinion, so that you want them to listen and be animated with what you're saying and understand the logic in your reasoning as well. So it's how all of these different purposes change the way that you present. Solving challenges, obviously it's going to be something complex, and some people may not understand the concept, and you may have to spell it out. And of course, this will change the design of your PowerPoints, where you may need to break things down and make them very, very simple, and then build up to the bigger picture so they can see the overall. Or depending on your audience, you may need to show them the big picture first and then break it down into the smaller parts. And then again, number 5 is to inspire the audience. So it's some kind of motivational talk, or you want them to do something for the benefit of society or something like that. Then it's going to be something similar to the persuasion and something similar to education and information. So there's a difference in how you present and how you stand, and using your body language, and also what you have on your PowerPoint as well. Now, looking at the structure, this is an overview, just a basic structure. I mean, there are many different types of structures out there, and this is not the only, the rule. But this is the basic structure that I like to give students, because it's very simple but very clear. And in the introduction, I've explained what the body is about, and transferring that message through the main points. But in the introduction, we've got attract attention, and this is more about when you're standing at the front and you need the audience to be listening to you. And usually when you give a presentation, there's lots of people moving around, sitting there, talking to each other, and you really need something that will, hey, everyone, listen, hey, all right, listen, ding, ding, something that will attract the attention, and they're looking at you. So there are many different techniques to do this. Some people will even, say a joke. For example, if you have that confidence, you can bring in a joke, for example. Now, self-involvement is, well, simply as it says, putting yourself into the topic. Usually basing it on a personal experience that you may have. And some people may tell a story, a personal story, to involve themselves in this topic. And usually people are interested in other people's stories. It could be a funny story too, but it's something that is of personal interest. So these things are used to not just attract, but keep the attention of the audience. And that's the key thing, is to keep them focused on what you're talking about, so that then you can introduce the topic and the purpose of why you're talking about that, and then outline the main points. And the main points will be, hey, today I'm going to talk about this, And then secondly, this one here, and thirdly, finally, this point here. And when you outline those main points, as I did at the beginning of this workshop, when I showed you the contents page of those 4 things that we're going to cover today, your audience will keep that in mind for the structure so that they can follow what you're saying. And it just makes it easier for them to navigate with all the information that you may present. It makes it easier for them to, oh, okay, that's the introduction, and this is the main point and the second main point, and we're coming up to the conclusion, and you're going to summarize now, so that they can see a logical connection with what you're saying, but also get it in their minds as if they're painting a word map, or you would say a mind map in their minds, and piecing it together to understand the big picture of your topic. And the language that you would use in setting out your main points, simple language like firstly, secondly, and finally, things like that. And this language is called signpost language, because as a signpost, it's got the direction of the street, that way, whatever. It tells you the direction. So really these key expressions tell the audience the direction of what you're going to say next. And the good thing about functional English is that these expressions often have a purpose attached to them. So when you hear it, you think, oh, okay, now they're going to explain something, or give evidence of something, or contrast, something like that, or even just to, in conclusion. So these expressions identify the purpose of you saying whatever it is, but also the where you are at in your presentation as well. Very important to do that. Okay, so moving on, and I've obviously spoken about the body, so I'm just going to have a look at the conclusion. So it says here, restate the topic and the purpose. And the main point, the reason for that is so that you want to bring it together. Obviously, you've introduced your topic, and the body, you've talked about the main points, and that key message is sent through those main points. And then when you restate the topic and the purpose, you're bringing it together. So if someone was to lose focus during the presentation, which 80% of the time happens, then you're helping those people to, oh, okay, that's what we're talking about today. I didn't hear it at the beginning, or I lost focus of what the person was saying, and now I fully understand what they've said, and now I know the topic very clearly. And then you summarize the main points, because sometimes when you're talking and you say all of the stuff about the main points, sometimes the audience may have information overload, lots of pictures, lots of graphs, and the topic and the key points may get lost in all of this information. So when you summarize those main points, those key things, and these are the things that you want the audience to walk away with, I should say. So when they walk away from your presentation, what are they going to remember? And by summarizing the main points, you're helping them process the information, understand the images that they have seen and the graphs and whatnot, and you've given them the tools that they need to be able to put it together and keep it in their mind. And then you've got at the end the question and answer session that everyone is afraid of. And in the next workshop that we do, which is next week, I'll be looking at different techniques to answer some tricky questions. So at least you can be well equipped and have some ideas of how to answer questions confidently rather than fearing that that end part. Because sometimes when you do assessments and you have to do a presentation, the teacher will say, please leave 5 minutes to answer some questions, and everyone panics like, oh my God, I don't want to answer a question. Oh, I don't even know the topic. And if you're not confident in using English, you know, because you practice and you memorize what you're going to say, and then the question coming to you is unstructured, you don't know what it's going to be, you haven't prepared an answer for that, and no one wants to look stupid or that they don't know what they're talking about. So these techniques that I'll show you next week will help you look like you know what you're talking about, when half the time you may not. Okay, do we have any questions before we move on? So you've got your topic, whatever it may be, and I like to use some kind of mind map or map of some kind to simplify the topic and break it up so I know what I'm talking about, and making sure that main point number 1 is not the same as main point number 2 or 3, that they're completely separate, and therefore I'm not blending the information together and replicating something, because that just, you know, when you do give a presentation and you may say, hey, this is main point number 1, blah blah blah, and then you talk about you know, you expand on that, and then when you get to main point 2, if it starts sounding something very similar to main point 1, your audience will be confused. So it's extremely important that you keep it completely separate. So I've got here some a guide, very simple guide. So first it says brainstorm for ideas, and then basically you're looking for just some, you know, some concepts or some words to help you start, and then read more about your topic. And as you read more, and you may have to do some research in the library and get some books or get some journal articles or whatever it is, you will discover more related vocabulary that you can then explore, or different ideas or different problems, issues, whatever it may be, that you hadn't thought of before, because you're reading more about your topic. Even though you may know the topic quite well, it's definitely a recommendation to read more, because you know, it's important not to express your opinion and your thinking, but someone else's, because it's usually the case where you're giving information, it's factual information. And especially at university, no one is really interested in your opinion, because you're not an expert unless you are at a maybe PhD level. Then you can give your opinion, but it's more about showing the opinions of others, and then you can always add your opinion to that, but most of the time it's matching your opinion to someone else's and referring to them. You will find that in your essays, and of course in presentations and reports, the same thing. That's why we reference and refer to the author of that idea. Okay, and I've got here in the first thing, identify 3 related subjects or main points, as I said before. Second, research the main points and use credible sources only. Credible means the author is someone who has qualifications, and it's not a blog site. You know, like you go to the internet and it's someone's opinion, and that is not credible. It has to be backed up with some factual information and referenced somewhere. So credible sources are the best because it's factual. and then you write the content details from that. Now, when you are extracting information, it is very important that you use the same academic integrity as you will when you are writing a report or an essay. And by that, I mean, if you are going to use someone's idea, exactly what they say, you still have to cite them. You still have to refer to them and say, this is the idea of so-and-so. This is exactly what they said. And in your PowerPoint, if you give information that is not your own, then you still have to put those citations in your PowerPoint as well. Not just provide a list of references at the end of your PowerPoint, because if anyone was looking at your PowerPoint and looking through the information you have provided, they wouldn't know what reference at the back connects with the information in your PowerPoint. So it is extremely important that you reference the key information in your PowerPoint slides of whose idea that is and connect it to the last page with your reference list as well. The third point I have here is write your presentation script and then create your PowerPoint that supports your script. Now, I've seen many students give presentations and their slides don't even match what they're saying. They've just found some pictures that relate to their topic and blah, 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 blah. They're talking away and they're just showing some pictures that sort of relate to the topic, but don't specifically focus on exactly what they're saying at that time. And your PowerPoint, your what is on the screen, is part of your communication tool. So as you're talking, it's great to be able to see it visually and show the audience, hey, this is what I've got here. This is the image. This is what I'm talking about. Have a look at this graph. This is what it's all about. And using it as a reference tool, as a communication tool as well. Okay, do I have any questions before I move on? Okay, when you are doing your research, make sure that the information you are getting is not crap. And in English, crap means rubbish. So, or garbage, whatever you want to say it. So here is an acronym, and it helps you identify or qualify the information that you're getting. And I know that in China, correct me if I'm wrong, but in China, your government says that a lot of the Western websites that you get factual information is wrong and falsified, and to trust their websites only. Is that true? Anyway, I've heard that from my students who were game enough to say that, and that's quite okay if you want to only focus on the websites that the government has given you. That's okay, but my recommendation is to look at databases that have journal articles that are written that are mainstream journal articles, and they're verified by other authors as well. And look for those peer review articles where other experts in the field have looked at the same article and verified, yes, this is exactly what the case is, or they disagree or something like that, so that there is quite a large amount of information out there. And I do certainly agree that much of the information can be false, but at the same time, there is a lot of information that is actually very factual as well. And you have to go through a process such as this to identify or qualify what information is factual and real and close to the truth as you know, as possible, considering the research and this you know, the data that is behind that research as well. So the key point there: currency, the timeliness of the of the information. So I think if when you're at university, any journal article that is more than 10 years old would be classified as too old. In fact, it depends really on the field that you're studying in, especially fields that don't have a lot of research. Then 10 years and possibly 15 might be okay, especially if there isn't a lot of research, then they would accept that. But especially fields that are IT related, social kind of community, that sort of social sciences and medical and whatnot, then anything within the 5-year range would be classified as okay. Anything beyond that would be that's a bit old, because there's so much information out there. The most recent is the absolute best. Relevance: does it fit your needs? So when you are reading the article, make sure that, or whatever information it is, make sure it does match your topic, and especially the main points that you are focusing on. There's nothing worse than listening to a presentation and the person says something that just doesn't relate, or it just doesn't connect with the main topic, and you're like, huh? And also you could waste a lot of valuable time. So you need to quickly scan through this information and identify what is valuable to you and what is not. So you need to create your own process and make it pretty quick, pretty fast process, so you can go through, so you can spend more time on the most valuable and credible information, rather than reading slowly through something that doesn't help you at all. The authority is the where it comes from, who says yes, it's a good article or whatever. If it's backed by a mainstream publisher or a journal, I don't know, community or something like that, a professional community, absolutely. Accuracy, the reliability and the correctness of the information. So we're looking for factual information, is certainly not opinion-based. And the last point is the purpose. So the reason that the information is there, if it's to educate peers in that field, if it's there for propaganda and just as a PR thing to promote someone's organization or their movement for something, then obviously that's not the way to go. Okay, so any questions before I move on? No? Okay, now if I'm speaking too fast, or if anyone doesn't understand anything that I'm saying, please let me know. Okay, so because we are the ones searching new materials, how can we identify the accuracy of that? Good question. We go back to the authority. So who wrote the material? We go back to the purpose of that as well. And you will find that if you were to do a research of some factual information within the article as well, do a quick research, you will find other papers on that as well. If you wanted to do a quick check of some factual information and you're not sure, if you've gone through this credibility test and you're still not sure about the accuracy of the information, then choose some key information that you want to use out of this article that you find, or whatever it may be, and do some searching on that key information and see what else comes up. And usually you will find that other people are writing about the same thing. And then just quickly check to see the credibility of those authors, and you'll find that you will build up a case to say, yes, I've got something that is viable. All right, moving on. So we're going to be looking at some visual aids, and I want you to quickly look at this. I'm going to give you a couple of seconds. There we go, a couple of seconds. There we go. Now, what do you remember about the previous slide? Attract, yes. The structure, yes. Do you know what the slide was about? Do you know what the topic is? Yeah, it is a visual aid. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. You've got that from the top of this slide. Thank you, Patrick. But we're talking about the slide before, the one with that image on there. Let me just show it to you again quickly, and then I'll flick it back to this slide. So here, oh, hang on, going back. There it is, looking at this picture. And there we have it. Okay, so can anyone tell me, thank you, Target. Can anyone tell me what that slide is about? Helena's got the target picture there. Yes, that is a key thing. Certainly key. Anyone else? Got that keyword attract? No one. Was I too fast? Do you need a, here, look at that. Oh, bingo, Joyce, thank you. Customer conversion. So changing, obviously it's changing potential into customer, attract, convert, retain, grow, measure, optimize. Yeah, so the purpose of that is to show you that visual aids are extremely important. And I've got a list of slides that I'm going to show you in a moment to emphasize this point a little bit more. Okay, so having a look at this one here, visual aids. Now, the main point of this information here is basically to tell you how important visual aids are. Now, a visual aid is, is your PowerPoint slide. I'm talking about the pictures that you have on your slide. It could be a graph, or do you say graph, depending on what your accent is. But it could be a graph. It could be a pie chart. It could be I don't know, an image of some people talking, whatever it may be that is about your topic. And it can be some just keywords, as we saw before, or even just some short statements about that main point that you're talking about. So the key point here is that, and this is very interesting, it said, oh, sorry, there we go. It says here that really people remember 10% of what they hear, basically 10%, so what you're talking about, 20% of what they're reading on the PowerPoint, but obviously 80% of what they see on your PowerPoint slide. So, and therefore, it's very important that your slide matches what you're saying. So it's a communication tool. It helps to clarify what you're saying, and therefore helps the communication process. And I've noticed, I've taught quite a number of Chinese students, and I've noticed that all of my students are visual learners, and the more images that I have that explain concepts, maybe complex ideas, it makes it a lot easier to understand. rather than me just talking and having no pictures to look at, which would be also boring. Okay, so let's just go to the next one here. There we go. So visual aids, I've got this guy and this young lady. They're using, I don't know, some kind of note paper, but they're using that as a visual tool of some kind. And I've got some key information here. So I'll just read this out to you. So visual aids can enhance your presentation, as we know. They can help you summarize the information. A picture says 1,000 words. That's the common expression or saying that we have. So an image can show a very complex idea and simplify it to help everyone understand how everything relates or connects with different parts. It can reduce the amount of words that you need to say to explain something. You can clarify or show examples by using pictures and the connections between those, or colors, or whatever it may be. You can emphasize something. You can enhance your credibility by showing some factual information, some graphs, some tables. Make it look like you've actually done your research as you're explaining what that means. It creates enthusiasm and interest, because if the audience have to just listen to you and there's nothing to look at, or if they're looking at the same slide for the whole presentation, boring. Most of the time, your audience will be like, the eyes will roll up. Oh my God. Oh, I want to get out of here. You need some kind of something to animate your audience and keep them focused and interested. So your visual aid is going to do that. And of course, it makes something easier to understand. Okay, so moving on. So let's have a quick look at this graph. It is a bar chart of some kind. Now, does this visual have one of the following? So number one is too much information, not enough information as number two. Number three, complex information, or enough information. Too much, not enough, complex, or enough. Can anyone answer that question in the chat box? If you wish to just pop in number 1, 2, 3, or 4 to answer this question. Does this visual have one of the following? 1, 2, 3, or 4. Please do that, so I know that you're still alive and awake. One or the other. Okay, go everyone. Time is money. Patrick, number 2. Thank you. 2, 3, 2, 3, 2 and 3. We've only got about 4 students, 5 students in this class. Oh, here we go. Sherman, thank you. Number 4. Catherine's coming in with a number 2. Anyone else? Come on, come on. Number 3. Tina, thank you. Come on, everyone. How many do we have in this group? We've got quite a few, right? Is there any information missing? The title? Yes. The industry? Yes. Thank you. Anything else? Oh, Joyce, you are driving home in the red Ferrari today. Congratulations. Where did I put the keys? Anyway, you have won the Ferrari. Thank you. It is definitely the color meaning. That's obviously the industry is missing. Yeah, there we go. The industry is missing, and we do need a title. Thank you, Patrick. But the key scary part about this is that we have no idea what those colors represent. So obviously there is not enough information here as number 2. Thank you very much. Okay, let's move on to the next one. I have about 4 of these, I think. Here we go. How about this one? Activity 2B, does this visual have number 1, too much information, not enough, 3, complex information, or enough? What do we have? All right, that's it. Going once, going twice. All right, sold. Okay, let's have a look at this. So we have definitely too much information. If you're looking at that on your PowerPoint slide in the audience, the screen would have to be very, very big for you to see that writing, to be able to, identify, oh yeah, okay, up here, email, right, spotlight, there we go. All right, here we go. So you can see my little spotlight. So this word here, email, phone call. So that screen would have to be like as big as the movie cinema for you to see that very small writing, for you to remember what the person said. Because if they go through this and say, okay, first of all, we start with a phone call or an email, and then we go to this thing here, which is can solve directly, yes or no, then you would have to see this information to be able to remember it, because by the time we get down to here, to be able to, yeah. So definitely number 1, too much information. And also, yes, number 3, I agree, complex information, because trying to put it all together, this would require a little bit more time, to kind of like a take-home handout, really, to look at it, consider it, and take it home and study it, rather than use it for your PowerPoint slide. To fix it, I guess, if you wanted to use this as a PowerPoint slide, then you could show this as just an overview and tell everyone, hey, don't worry about it being such a big complex thing, and I understand that you won't see the specifics, and I'm going to move on to something that we need to focus on, and then focus on some part of it, a smaller part, to be the target area. But as a global view, they could see how everything sort of connects, and this part, how it connects with everything else. It might be okay to show, but you would have to explain to the audience that they don't need to remember or focus too much on the content. Okay, good job, everyone. Moving on to the next one. Whoa, look at that. USA states by population. Look at that. That looks fantastic. Definitely too much information. In fact, look at it over here. You've got some that are actually overlapping, which does not look good at all. In fact, I think if this part here, the top right corner, I mean, that information there could be used. It's simple. It's big enough to see. Of course, the font needs to be bigger so that the audience can actually see it. But the rest of it, it just becomes a pinwheel of colors. That's all, just a pinwheel of colors. All right, so, oh, Jack, thank you very much. Jack comes out from the back, from nowhere. He's said number 1, thank you. Thank you, Patrick, absolutely. And also putting too much data in your graph as well, and making it over, just too much information, just overwhelming for your audience. They'll be focusing on the picture and the details, trying to work it out, because the audience tends to look at the visual, and if we go back to that slide that I showed you before, where the audience remembers only, was it 10% of what you say? Is that what I said before? 10%? Something like that. I can't remember. Anyway, a very small percentage of actually what you say. So while you're droning on and talking about this, this graph that has too much information, the audience is looking at the images, trying to work it out for themselves. So that's the issue that you've got there. Okay, thank you very much. We're going to move on. This would have to be the last one. This is the one that we looked at right from the beginning. What do you think? Too much information, not enough, complex, or enough? Jack, thank you. Jack is back. All right, thank you very much. I can't read the Chinese, but that's okay. All right, yes, definitely number 4, enough information. It depends on the purpose of what you're talking about. And of course, with these keywords, when you're presenting, you can expand on these keywords. So it's not just about, okay, everyone, you have to attract your customers and then convert them and then retain them. Because if you just say the keywords, it has no meaning. You need to be able to expand on the keyword. It's okay, first of all, you need to attract the audience. And what I mean by that is blah, 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 blah. And then so the keywords help them simplify what you're saying and keep it together, but it's your job to fill in the blanks, to expand on the information that is in the slide. Don't leave it to the slide to do the work for you. You have to expand on that and help your audience match the words and the pictures with what you're actually saying. Okay, thank you, everyone. We're going to move on. Here we go. All right, so here we're looking at some PowerPoint slides, some examples. And I've got 2 questions on each. And obviously the first one here is what is wrong with a PowerPoint slide? So I'm looking for some feedback from everyone. You can say it or you can type it, your choice. And then number 2, how can it be improved, which actually is going to, it might be easier to say because, when you're trying to type down something a little bit more complex or some ideas, it might take so many words, but it's up to you. It's your choice. All right, so these are the 2 questions. What's wrong with the PowerPoint slide? And number 2, how can it be improved? So let's have a look at the first one. What do you think? Let's deal with question number 1 first. So what is wrong with this PowerPoint slide? Great car, by the way. That's Joyce's car. That's the one that she won in the previous activity. So congratulations, Joyce. Too many words. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. The background, it should be a little bit. Yeah. The transparency. Yes. A little bit, maybe a fainter picture. The text is too hard to read. Thank you, Joyce. Yes, it is. Oh, very good, Patrick. Yeah, the picture is certainly not good quality. The text space, yes, in between the lines, it makes it harder for the audience to, from a distance, imagine sitting right down the back looking at this, and to differentiate between this line with that one, it would, for me, it would look like a blur, but maybe for you, your eyes are perfect. You could probably see every letter. Yes, that's right. Definitely good quality. Only the best for Joyce. Yes, everyone else, you could have won this, but Joyce jumped in and gave the right response. So bad luck, everyone. This is the last one I have to give away. So she might give you a ride in this car. If you see her cruising around, she might offer you a lift. I doubt it, but you never know, she might. Okay, so all of those are very good comments, and absolutely true. And obviously, by looking at this, you're not going to do this for your future PowerPoints, are you? I hope not. Okay, and then how can it be improved? Obviously, from the previous comments, Patrick said that the picture needs to be less, it should be fainter, so the transparency should be a lot better, something very light in the background and the words a bit stronger. The spacing of the words, the line spacing should be better. There are definitely too many words here. So how do we reduce the wording? It's so easy. I've seen so many PowerPoints from my students where they just copy and paste from their research report, for example. Just take this and I'll paste it into my PowerPoint and there it is. Oh, it only took me 1 minute to do and I expect to get it 100%. What do you think? So separate the words and the picture. Yes, you could definitely do that and put the picture on the side and some words there. Use bullet points. Thank you, Patrick. Yes. And I recommend obviously not using all of these words, but there are certain key points in this. So you need to provide us a summary or just the key points that you need to mention. And my recommendation is using short statements, maybe some keywords, but also some short statements. If I have to make a sentence, then obviously I can make a very short statement of, one line. Maybe if I can make it shorter, that would be good. So we don't need to include all of this information because, as I said before, even if we have keywords, it is really up to the presenter to provide this information in your talk. You don't have to put it on your PowerPoint and let your PowerPoint do all the work. The PowerPoint is there to simplify, and then you fill in the gaps with what you have to say. Okay, we're going to move on. Otherwise, we'll be here all night. Here we go. So what do you think of this one here? What is wrong with this slide?
The word is too small. Words are too small.
Fantastic. Who's that?
Kathy.
Kathy, all righty. Thank you, Kathy. I don't have a Ferrari to give away, but I do have a black Lamborghini. Is that something that you would be interested in?
Yeah, Lamborghini will be good.
All right. Okay. Black Lamborghini. That is definitely up for grabs, and you have responded very well. But do we have anything to add? Because at the moment you are in the lead for this black Lamborghini. Anyone else? Can anyone do anything better than that? I've got something that is just explosive, and I would definitely be driving that black Lamborghini tonight if I say my idea, but I'm hoping that someone will come out with it. Anyone, come on, come on. It's a black Lamborghini, for goodness sakes. Come on, anyone. Definitely what Kathy said, the font down the bottom there is definitely too small, and down here, like, too early is better than too late, and take care of your clothes and your overall grooming. Very small, too small. But anything else? I feel that the pattern is a little out of line with the theme, the pattern. What do you mean by pattern? Sherman, you have to explain yourself. Come on, pattern. What do you mean by that? The middle one? You mean up here? Sherman, you are definitely driving away in that black Lamborghini. Yes, look at that picture. Look, it doesn't even match. It says here how to make a good first impression. What is that? That doesn't even I don't even know what that is. Is it a brain? Is it a cloud? It's just, it doesn't, I mean, these other pictures may, yeah, I mean, they match sort of what's going on here, but definitely this one here just is completely off the charts. It doesn't even connect. So I'm sorry. I'm very, very sorry, Kathy. I've got some very bad news. But Sherman might be very, very generous in offering you a lift to work, okay? So on the rainy days. All right, so let's just move on. Whoa, look at that. An executive summary. Obviously, that is very important. Can anyone tell me what's wrong with it? Kathy?
The whole novel is here. I think the words are too many words and the words are too small, and I don't see any key points.
Yep, that is absolutely true. All of those things are absolutely true. Obviously, the person has just copy and pasted from their report into their PowerPoint slide. And I've seen this quite often with students, and I've explained and I've given guides and say, this is all you have to do. But so many students don't listen, and they think that this is a good PowerPoint slide. It's quite sad, really. Yeah, so definitely overwhelming, and you can't make sense of this because the only thing that this PowerPoint helps is the presenter, because the more information you have on your PowerPoint slide, obviously it's extremely tempting for you to just look at your slide and just read it. And that, of course, is not a presentation either, because it's about you showing your slide and using it as a communication tool to clarify information, and you stand out in front and talk to your audience. But if you are reading directly from your slide, then obviously you don't have the eye contact, you're not using your body language, and then it changes the way you say it too, because as you're reading it, it's different from when you're actually saying it. Reading is like, executive summary. The US wireless data market grew 6%, Q/Q and 22, right? Boring. But when you're presenting, it's like, hey, everyone, I've got the executive summary and the main points are blah, 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 you know, and you're animated and you're only highlighting the key points. Okay, so we're going to move on. Oh, this is a nice one. I like the colors. Lovely. What do you think? What's wrong with this one? Terrible. It's pretty difficult to see, to read. Of course, obviously there's too many words. Yeah, that's right. The white font is a key thing, and the background picture is definitely too bright, and the white font also creates, this type of font creates kind of like a shadow effect as well. And if you stare at it long enough, for me anyway, the words start to sort of move and come closer. So by looking at these different PowerPoint slides, it shows you, or hopefully you can get an idea that the font type and the font size and the background pictures and the contrasting colors are all very important. And many people lose the idea that the PowerPoint slide is for the audience, and they forget about the audience having the need for them to read it and understand it. They tend to make it only for themselves and what looks good for them. And especially if you're designing it on your computer, you're looking at it and it's very in your face, and you might have good lighting on your computer or in your room, and it looks good when you're looking at it, but you really have to keep in mind about the audience when it's up on that big screen, and what will it look like to the audience, and will it actually help you in your presentation? Will it help the audience understand? Yep, that's right. So thank you, Jack. The background picture is not darkened. I think the key point here is to reduce the wording and perhaps move the picture to the side and have the keywords, because it's the background picture is distracting. I find that I'm looking at the river and I want to see where that river goes. I don't care about the words. I really want to just see, oh yeah, that river, that's a nice looking river. Yeah. All right. So it's a little bit distracting, and you have to be careful of what picture you're using, and that it doesn't take the focus away from the key points that you want to make in your presentation. All right, moving on quickly. This one's simple. I mean, you've got some keywords here. There are several kinds of bees. Is there any way that we can simplify this? Does it have to be a whole, sentence? Do we have to say there are several? Do we have to say those words? Could we just say types of bees, or even bee types? Bee types, maybe types of bees would probably be better. So we can shorten the title even. Anything else? Could we just add some ideas regarding this? Yep, thank you, Catherine. So the background color and the color of the word. So we're looking at contrasting the colors, and the font color is this very light pink, and then you got the background that's this awful yellowy color. And thank you. Yes, the title doesn't fit. It's actually quite too big, and the other thing is that the line spacing between these key words, it's too close, and obviously that title is too big, and it's taken up the space of the keywords that are listed there. And the other thing I wanted to make mention of, have a look at the bullet point images here. So you've got this one here, and this is the main group, and it has the same bullet point as the individual, the different bees that is under this group title here. So this bullet point image is confusing because they're all the same, whereas you need to emphasize the group name or the title here, the subtitle, and the same with this one here. So then you can clearly identify all of these different types of bees under that group. Okay, we're going to move on because we're definitely running out of time. This is a beauty. Look at that. Look at that. I can see Kathy giving a presentation and explaining this to the class very clearly, very succinctly. What do you think?
Yeah, the diagram is too complicated and a little bit messy.
Yep, absolutely. And also there are some acronyms that are used here that may be a little bit confusing as well, depending on who your audience is. But definitely, it looks like some kind of police organization or something like that. We've even got narcotics over here. Where did I get this from? Anyway, quickly, let's just keep going because I don't want to cause any confusion of who I work for. All right, I think this is the last one. 5 great productivity apps. There we have it. Would you choose that color green, that background? It's a nice color. Anyone? What's wrong with this? It's too bright. Yes, my eyes are actually just trying to adjust now. Background color, yeah. Yeah, the color, the matching is very strange. Yes, that's true. Thank you. Background color, yes, absolutely. So I would, yeah, the font color and the background color, because it makes it a lot harder to see those keywords. I think if you had a strong background, then you would need your wording to be in black or something like that, something a little bit more stronger. But yeah, so yeah, definitely the background color is just way over the top. Yeah. Okay, so moving on. Thank you very much, everyone, for contributing. Thank you, Jack. Okay. Oh, gee whiz, how many do I have? Let me just, we'll skip this one because that's obviously complex as well. Let's just, here we go. All right, let's just jump into this, shall we? Now, this is a basic guide that I like to give my students when I'm talking about designing PowerPoints, because many students don't know, what should they include in their presentation? What does it include? And sometimes your assignment description will say you need to have this and that and whatnot, and how many slides you're allowed. And that's great. Follow exactly what the assignment says. But if it doesn't have that requirement, and you've been told, oh, just create a PowerPoint and do a presentation, then this is something that I like to give my students. So I like to say that you need at least a title page where you have the topic, and then you include your name and at least your student number. And the reason that you need to identify who you are is because when your teacher is going through the materials, when they download the PowerPoint, and if it doesn't have your identification on there, then it belongs to no one. So many PowerPoints I've received, and the students have forgotten to put their name and even their student number on there. And the key thing also is when you are sending your documents to your teacher, or even uploading, if you upload to Moodle or whatever system it is, in the file name, make sure that you save with your name and your student number. And if it's an assignment number or something like that, then include that in the file name, so that at least when it's downloaded, it can be found, it can be organized. Because many times I've downloaded lots of stuff from Moodle, from students, and I've had to spend hours titling these documents, because it just says report, presentation, and if you've got 20 documents that you've downloaded that all say presentation as the file name, you can't identify who they belong to, and it just takes forever. So it may upset your teacher greatly if you don't save your document with your student, obviously your name and your student number, at least those two things, to help them organize your work. You need a content slide, so that when you introduce your topic and you introduce the main points that you're going to talk about, you can put these on a slide and use this as part of your structure. It helps in organizing your work. And then I recommend at least three slides minimum, and that covers each of those main points. And then you put in your subtopic title, which is the main point, whatever it is that you're talking about, and you include short statements, 3 or 4 minimum, short statements or keywords. Don't put long sentences in there because no one will read them. As we saw from the sample PowerPoints, slides that we looked at before, when you have too much content, it doesn't help anyone, and it just confuses the audience. But also make sure that you put in relevant graphs, diagrams, and pictures that relate to what you're talking about when you get to that slide, each slide, the content that you're speaking about. And then, of course, have a conclusion slide which summarizes the main points and includes your key message as well. So put some pictures on there if you like, but at least something at the end so that there is a clear structure. And if you set it up like this, then it helps the organization of your presentation, because the slides help to give you that guidance of what's happening next and whatever. When you practice your presentation and the content, I recommend printing out, not printing out, but taking a screenshot of what the PowerPoint slide looks like and matching it with the words so that you can easily identify, okay, I'm up to this page now or this slide, and I need to say this information here when you're practicing, so that when you get to your presentation, you can recognize the slide and you know exactly what to say. In each of the slides that you're talking about, the main points, you need to include keywords that help you remember what to say as well. So you can use it as a guide of key information that you need to include, but you do need to practice a lot because there's a lot more information in you than you put on your slide as well. Okay, are there any questions before we move on? No? Okie dokie. All right, hang on one sec. Alrighty, thank you very much. Okay, let's just click away. All right, so this is just the last part of this workshop. There are this is kind of like a guide that I created, and there's just maybe about 5 or so slides that I'm just going to go through with some guidance of what to do and whatnot. So here we go. So the topic title, nice, big, it's easy to see. And then I've got choose, oh, sorry, what happened there? Okay, so choose a contrasting font color that stands out over the picture that can be easily read. And if you can't do that, then don't put a picture behind the wording. It's just as simple as that. So you may be able to find on, I don't know where you find it, but there are some very good sites where you can get a picture and then something like I don't know, like a screen, like a transparent screen that goes over the top of your picture that just makes it a little bit fainter if you can't get a picture that is already faint enough. I've seen that in many students' work. They've got this fuzzy type of screen or something, that transparent screen that goes over the top of the picture, and it improves the visibility of the picture in the background to the wording that you have at the front. Make sure you put your name, your student number, at least on the front title slide. And if you have a class number or something, that always helps as well. It helps the teacher organize your work, as I mentioned before. Okay. The contents slide. So it's always good to bullet point your contents. So list your subtopics that you'll speak about. The contents page helps you to introduce your topic because you have to follow a certain structure. And yeah, it helps you to structure your presentation. The contents page helps the audience know what you're going to talk about. So remember when I started this workshop, I spoke about those 4 things. We know that we are at the last stage of this workshop because I mentioned 4 things. I can't remember exactly what they are, but there are only 4 things in this workshop. But the audience will keep that in mind as you go through your presentation. And you should number your contents. So number 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever it is. And you can even on your slides in the heading at the top there, put, number 1, number 2, and whatever it is to keep track as well. And at the bottom here, your subtopics should be words or very short statements, not lots of heavy information, because no one will read it. It serves no purpose except, as I said before, the students who do that, put a lot of content on their slides, really means that they are going to read it directly. They haven't practiced, and it shows that you don't have the confidence to speak in front of a class. And a lot of the time presentations are about showing your confidence. And to do that, you need to practice, and practice. All right. Do not overload your slides with animations, which is something that students love to do, having these fantastic animations that just come in and things just move around and whatnot. I know that I use animations, but it's a tool, it's a technique that overlapping pictures for me is a technique that helps me send the message that I'm sending to you. But it's, for me, in doing a workshop, it's not an assessment. So keep in mind that if you are overlapping pictures in your animations, if the teacher PDFs your work or even prints it, they won't see the pictures behind. Just keep in mind of that. So it's always good not, if it's an assessment, try not to overlap your pictures. Try to create extra slides, depending on, obviously, if you have a slide limitation, then that makes it awkward. But even don't hide them. If you have to overlap your pictures, don't overlap them in the sense that you're hiding the ones behind completely, so to have them stick out a little bit, so you, at least the teacher can see that there are some hiding behind the picture at the front. So when they do print it out, they are notified by that, and they can go back and open up your PowerPoint and look at those pictures to make sure that you get the grade that you deserve. And the message is there. Anyway, so obviously this is overkill. And in this particular slide, this is actually one of my students. When you put it, when you show this slide, there's nothing on the page. And then I'm clicking through it, and then the pictures come up, and then as you can see, these headings come up, and then the information. Well, that serves no purpose whatsoever unless the person talks about this information here first, communication. So, and this could be all blank. So this information could be there already. Talk about that. So everyone's focused on this information on the left, and then this information in the middle appears. Then they can talk about that. And then the third information can then appear as one block. But if it's click, 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 then the audience is just waiting around. There's another picture. There's this, there's that. It serves no purpose, and those time delays are boring and just wasteful of time. Okay, moving on. Any questions before we move? All good? Okay, moving on. Alrighty. Okay, so make sure that the subtopic title that you have is the same as on the contents page. So it matches, because your audience will hopefully retain what the contents is for your presentation. And if you bring up a different topic title, which I've seen in some cases, it will only confuse the audience. And also here it says the image should be big enough so that the audience can see it. It should not interfere or distract from the writing. The writing needs to be short statements only, as I showed you before, easy to comprehend pieces of information if they're reading it from a PowerPoint slide. But if they have to read a whole paragraph or something, then they won't. And the writing needs to be big for the audience to see and to be able to read clearly. That's why we have short statements, because it's easy to make it bigger than if you have a lot of content. Then you'll find that the writing has to be smaller to fit it all onto the one slide. And of course, choose your contrasting font color to make sure that the wording is clear and visible by your audience. Just imagine you're sitting at the back. Will you be able to see the wording on your PowerPoint slide? And if the answer is no, then obviously you have to change it. Okay. So here we have just an idea. Putting the wording at the front of this picture. Obviously, the picture is distracting. It's difficult to know what the message is. So if you separate the picture with the wording and have your key points on the side, then it's easier to go through each one of these. And you can animate this and have this one already there, this one appear next, and that one then comes in as you are clicking through. It makes it easier to focus the audience on the information. Okay. Alrighty. This looks pretty cool. You can get these really cool designs in the PowerPoint. At the top there, you can choose your design format for every slide. And just remember when you're doing that, and you may decide that design is not something that you like. With every design, it will have a different format here of the font. So you may choose this particular design and you think, oh, that green color is great and I like the layout here. And you spend a bit of time in making the size of your heading a certain size, and you play around with this and whatnot. And then if you change it to a different design, the font will go to the default size, whatever that design has. And this title might be bigger or smaller or in a different place. It might even be down here, and these might be different bullet points, and then it might even be a different color. So be aware of that. It's always best to choose your design first and make sure you're happy with it and keep it like that, because as you start to play around with the font, then, as I said, if you change the design, then you'll have to do it again. And if you have quite a few slides, that's a real pain in the neck, if you can understand that expression. Okay. So important notes I have here. Let me just quickly go through them. The image should be big enough so that the audience can see it. And it should not interfere or distract from the writing, which this doesn't. That's good. the writing needs to be short statements only. I need to emphasize that key point because so often I see large slabs of information and it doesn't help anyone. And do not include your presentation script in the content for you to read. So don't include large paragraphs for you just to read directly from your PowerPoint. What happens is when you are reading from your PowerPoint, or even when you are reading from your phone, which I have mine here, your voice is at the PowerPoint. So the audience is there, but your voice is here. And people can't hear you. The clarity of your voice is not clear. If you're obviously reading from your phone, your face is down, you're reading it, they can't see you, you can't use your facial expressions, you can't use hand gestures as you're talking because people need animation when you talk, otherwise they will fall asleep. You need, hey, okay, everyone, you know, this is right. Okay, you need to use some gestures as you talk. So if you're relying on your notes, that doesn't help you at all. And also please note that the writing needs to be big enough so the audience can see it and it's clear as well. Okay, so moving on. The conclusion or the summary of what you've just said. Let me just move my little pictures out of the way. A conclusion can be a list of your key points that you mentioned in your presentation. So just go back and say, oh, you know, from basically it's like you're going back to the beginning again when you were introducing your topic, and you can say, well, today I spoke about this and these are the key points that I mentioned, and you can finish with the main message that you want your audience to walk away with and remember that key message. So they don't, in your summary, these statements need to be just short so that they can quickly look at it. You give the details in your summary and it connects all the dots so that they say, ah, yeah, got it. No worries. I can keep that information and retain it. If you give them too much information, they will switch off and they won't listen to what you have to say. So you have to make your PowerPoint user-friendly, and the users, not just you, but it's the audience, because they are reading your PowerPoint. They are connecting with what they see, the pictures and the wording with what you're actually saying to make it extremely effective. The last slide I have here. Make sure that, as I mentioned before, the file name of your document, your PowerPoint, if you have to submit a presentation script as well, you know, like what you said, the content. And the next workshop that I give, I'll be giving an example script, and that shows the Signpost language in that as well. But make sure that you title your documents with your at least your name and your student number, so that the teacher, when they download it, they can keep track of whose document belongs to who. Just if you can save some time for your teacher, they will look favorably upon you when they are marking your work. Okay, so that's it for today. Do we have any questions before we finish up? Let me stop sharing. That's it for the workshop material. So I'm just opening it up. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask those questions. Are you still awake?
Any questions?
They've all gone to sleep. That's what the problem is. Oh,
In mind, everyone should be go to have dinner.
did you just wake up, Ruby? Is that what you're saying? What?
Yeah, I said that everybody would going to have dinner right now because it's the dinner time in China.
Oh, right. Okay. So you should have said something. I would have just stopped and you know, whatever. But yeah, Sherman's just asked a question. Let me address it. So the references in the PowerPoint, and yes, absolutely. To be academically correct and to ensure your what is called your integrity, academic integrity, it's extremely important that you reference throughout your PowerPoint slides. So if you're using a graph that has content from somewhere, then you have to, you know, reference that. You could say figure 1 or something and then put that at the back as an appendix, as long as there's a connection between that image to the reference list at the back. But you do have to reference the content that you're using, that it belongs to someone else. It's just like a report. If you're writing a report of some kind or an essay, and you're using the ideas of another person, another author, you still have to reference and say, oh, you know, Jack Smith 2001 says blah blah blah. You basically have to reference that person in, you know, the content that you've used in your PowerPoint slide, and then also create a reference list at the back of your PowerPoint slides. So you have your some teachers are a bit funny about where you put that reference list. If you know, at the end, if you say your thank you slide, you know, thanks for listening slide, and then you put your reference list after it, some people are okay with that. Some teachers like the reference list before and then the thank you, so that you can prove your credibility as you're presenting and say, okay, everyone, this is my reference list. This is to prove that I've used factual information, I'm credible. And then you go to your thank you slide. So you need to ask your teacher about that to make sure that you present the best way as possible. I hope that answers your question. Alrighty, any other questions? Fire away, come on, hit me. If anyone thinks that I love giving presentations, it is completely wrong. I don't. My hand actually, it shakes when I present. I get very nervous, and it's either my hand shakes or my leg starts shaking. And if my leg shakes, I have to stand behind something, because everyone's going to see that I've got a wobbly leg. It's going to fall off. So yeah, if anyone notices that they have a certain characteristic that, you know, when they're nervous and they're presenting, some people, ladies especially, like to play with their hair and whatever, or something, you know. If you notice that, then make sure you use your hand gestures you might do this and then do something different so that no one knows that you are nervous. That's the secret. Any skill we need, communication skill, yeah. Now, you don't have to be an excellent communicator to present. The key is practicing knowing what you have to say. And the other key is, if you do make a mistake, having techniques in your back pocket that you can use to overcome those mistakes too. So the more you practice, and especially the practice in front of friends and people that make you feel awkward, to help build your confidence mainly, the more confidence that you will gain. And when you make mistakes, especially in front of your friends, you know that they're going to laugh at you. So encourage that, encourage them to laugh at you, because you need to overcome that feeling of fear that you look stupid, and just keep going until you feel confident. And that's the key thing, is to feel confident with your material as well as how you deliver that information too. And many times I feel stupid, absolutely. But the key thing is to laugh at yourself, like, aha, yeah, I made a mistake. All right, let's just continue, okay? And have that confidence to do that. So anyone else, just before we finish up? Going once, going twice? No? Pretty quiet.
And they're all gone for dinner.
Gee whiz. No one loves me. That's the problem. You all love your dinner more.
That's a good. It was a good sharing. Thank you for your sharing, Richard.
All good.
All right then. Oh, I see another question. How to solve the technical problems in a good way?
Gee whiz. Okay, technical problems are your PowerPoint doesn't work. That's a good one. The clicker thing that you've got doesn't work. That's another technical issue. Okay, so let's go with the PowerPoint's not working for you. You need always have a backup. Always PDF your PowerPoints. And when you come to class, have your PowerPoint saved on a USB stick, a memory stick, whatever you call that thing. I don't know what your technology is there. Sometimes you can save your work maybe in WeChat, and you can use an app. I forget what it's called, but you can use a particular app that you can share your mobile phone with the TV on the wall that you may have, just in case the the technology is not working on the computer or something like that. You may have that type of technology in class where you have some kind of a TV screen that's connected to the internet. I'm not sure about the technology in your classrooms, but I know where I teach, they have that kind of technology. So I'm just sort of guessing that it's the similar, where the students can, download this app and they can share their PowerPoint directly from their mobile to the screen and use that for their presentation. But do bring a backup on your stick that is a PDF, because if the animation goes wrong for some reason, sometimes people's computers don't have certain functionality, then the PDF always works. And in saying that, be very careful of the animations that you also use in your PowerPoint. Don't over animate where you've got lots of overlapping, because when you PDF it, obviously everything goes stuck like a picture. Keep that in mind. Yeah, they're the biggest technical issues that I've come across, is the PowerPoints don't work. And then there's the issue in class, the technology as well. Anyone else? Now, obviously, if you're stuffing your face with noodles, you can still type. So obviously, if you've got a fork in one hand, you still have the other hand free to quickly type in on your phone a question. Unless you are doing this, that's another story. No? Yes, yes.
No question? No question? Okay. Okay, let's call it a day. Right. Thank you, Richard. Thank you for your sharing. Yeah, it was very practical. And thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you. And next workshop is next week. I'll be presenting on how to deliver your PowerPoint. So a lot of the stuff I sort of covered a little bit tonight with delivery, but I'll be looking at also tackling some of those difficult types of questions at the end, some techniques as well. So everyone's welcome to come along to that, of course. All right, everyone, have a great night. Enjoy your dinner. Take it easy.